Hello, you are watching Middle East Matters on France 24. I'm Nadia Massi. Here's what's coming up. Divisions in Israeli society over the war in Gaza. We'll hear from those who support the government's strategy against Hamas and those who say it's not working. We'll get reaction from Iraq to the latest American airstrikes there. They targeted Iranian-backed militias, but civilians were reported to be among the dead. And a year on from the devastating earthquake in Syria and Turkey, we take you to meet communities in mourning, but starting now to look to the future. Welcome. First to Israel, where as the war in Gaza drags on, divisions in Israeli society are growing more stark. Immediately after the attacks of October the 7th, the vast majority of people did support the government's decision to pursue Hamas aggressively. Indeed now, months on, it is a view that many in Israel still hold. But a growing vocal minority is arguing the government's strategy isn't working, particularly when it comes to rescuing the Israeli hostages. Our team in Israel have sent us this report.
In Tel Aviv, the rift in Israeli society shows on the streets. People are demonstrating for the release of the hostages. Among them, a handful of protesters call for a ceasefire and an end to Israeli occupation. And on the opposite side, supporters of Benjamin Netanyahu.
I oppose them because they are stuck in this mindset that peace is the only solution. They are trying to have peace with murderers, with rapists, with people that mutilate bodies. They are so addicted to this concept of peace that they are unwilling to wake up from it.
It's very hard for many Israelis to think towards peace right now, to think about ending the war. I think that also our government is increasing the fears and the hatred, as well as abandoning the citizens of Israel.
4 months since the start of the war, the country no longer stands united as anger and frustration mount toward the government. Some support the ground operations, and others want to negotiate the release of hostages. In the small, ultra-Orthodox town of Bnei Brak, one man refuses the idea of an exchange. Zvika Moor's son, Eitan, was taken hostage on October 7th. He says he's ready to sacrifice his son's life for the security of his country.
We say that the right way to bring back the hostages is to put significant pressure on Hamas. The state of Israel and Israeli citizens have already paid a heavy price on October 7th and more generally over the last 100 years. There must be no deal like that of soldier Gilad Shalit in 2012, because after 1,027 terrorists were released in the Shalit deal, 1,400 citizens were killed here. 1,400 Jews were killed. So if they're released now, which is about 7,000 terrorists, what could happen?
Since October 7th, Zvika has received hundreds of messages of support. Yet most of the families of the hostages want the same thing. It's now that they want talks to free their loved ones. The question remains, can Netanyahu weather the anger sweeping the nation until the end of the Gaza offensive? Or will Israeli society slowly tear itself apart as the war continues with no end in sight?
Our team in Israel reporting for us there. And now from Israel to across the border in the south of Lebanon. Since the war in Gaza began, there's been a near daily exchange of fire between the Israeli army and Hezbollah. Over 200 people have been killed in Lebanon, most of them fighters for Hezbollah, but at least 26 civilians as well. And border villages have been almost emptied of residents, with people being forced to flee north towards the cities of Tyre or Sidon. Our team in Lebanon have met some of them.
In Kfar Shuba in southern Lebanon, villagers mourn the loss of a Hezbollah fighter. He was killed in an Israeli airstrike on his home. Since 8th October, the Israeli army has frequently targeted Hezbollah strongholds in this highland town, situated over 1,200 meters above sea level. The escalating border violence has forced 90% of Kfar Shuba's residents to flee. Shadia Ghanem, now residing in the port city of Saida, over 65 kilometers away from her birthplace, reflects on her situation.
Life is tough. I deeply wish the army could establish control over the border region. I'm constantly stressed and anxious. The fear of never being able to return to my village haunts me. Back in the 70s, I had to leave my home for almost 3 years. Every morning, I wonder if I'll ever see my home, my land, and my belongings again. It's truly hard.
Like Shadia, many displaced residents hope for a peaceful resolution that could lead to a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Among them is Qasim El-Qadiri, the mayor of Kfar Shuba.
The
bombings are relentless. Several homes in the village have been destroyed. So far, 3 locals have been killed. The situation is extremely dire.
Abu Muhammad, an old man, has lived through numerous wars, which brought death and destruction to his village. Today, he boldly expresses what many are thinking quietly.
Our village is at the mercy of more powerful forces. What can we do? I'll say it plainly, people are scared to speak the truth. Those against the war are labelled collaborators with Israel, while those not opposing it are accused of wanting to destroy Kfar Shuba. We are neither for nor against any side, we just want peace. We want to live safely with our children.
In Saida, as in other southern coastal towns of Lebanon, the echoes of war grow louder and more threatening. The fear of a full-blown-out conflict now preoccupies everyone's mind.
Now, this past week, the United States launched airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against 85 targets linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guards and pro-Iranian militias. The attack came in response to the killing of 3 American soldiers in Jordan, and the US has warned that more such strikes could be to come. That is an eventuality that is naturally causing concern in Iraq, where civilians are among those that were killed. Here's more now from Baghdad.
Here in central Baghdad, pilgrims from all over the country have gathered to commemorate Imam Kadem. Among them, there is a sense of worry and uncertainty of what the future holds.
We as citizens, we condemn this behavior. America has to coordinate with the government. If there are any violations or negative acts, they have to avoid bombing and go through diplomacy.
At any hour, at any moment, we can be under attack.
They talk about sovereignty and security. Where is the sovereignty? Where's the security?
Pressure is now mounting on the Iraqi government to end the American presence in Iraq. Many here are tired of once again finding themselves in the crossfire.
Iraq has become a square to settle scores. People are coming from the outside solving their issues in Iraq, and innocent people who don't have anything to do with it get killed.
In the beginning, ISIS was present, but now ISIS is gone from Al-Anbar. So why would the Americans start attacking Iraq?
A country doesn't just come and bomb another country without informing the government. This crisis needs to stop. You wake up in the morning and find that your neighbor's been hit. How long is this going to last?
Iranian representatives have visited Baghdad, but while these political discussions are being held, people are awaiting new American strikes.
Now, finally, for this programme, this week marks a year since the devastating earthquake struck Turkey and Syria. At least 50,000 people were killed. And 12 months on, thousands are still officially listed as missing, and millions of survivors remain displaced. Our correspondents have travelled back to the epicentre of the quake in Hatay province in Turkey to meet those honouring the dead and trying to preserve their memory.
A year after the earthquake, praying continues. Sunday Mass is a busy event in the Turkish port city of Iskenderun. This Orthodox Christian community has lost 8 of its members in the earthquake, but attracted many new ones, as displaced Christians from other cities have flocked to this church. Many of them don't know each other, but they share the same fate, the same grief, just like their priest, Father Dimitri, who was himself displaced from Antakya, one of the cities worst hit by the quakes.
We're not afraid for the future of the community, but the process is very painful. We don't know when we'll return to our city. It's been a year already and we're still waiting without knowing anything. How many years will this take? 3, 5, 7, 10? We can't know.
Much of Antakya still lies in ruins. It is hard to see a future here, so many people cling on to their memories. One of them is Misa Uyar, whose organization Nehna has created an online map to which people can upload photographs and stories of the Antakya they remember.
Even the buildings we used to use as a reference to move around the city were destroyed. There's nothing left. The city was almost flattened. And it's not just the buildings that collapsed. The people's memories also disappeared.
But life must go on. Doğuz Genç has rebuilt his bar Rosinante exactly how it used to be. He doesn't just serve cocktails, he says. He serves a bit of hope.
As a result of the earthquake, of this destruction, people's memories of how the city was began to disappear. With Rosinante, we're trying to refresh people's memories and give them hope. We see this has an impact on people. We're trying to make this place one reason why people should be hopeful and stay in this city.
The party begins. There is a DJ and there's music. Some seem to struggle at first, but as the night moves on, so do the people of Antakya, not just preserving their memories, but making new ones.
Well, that's it for Middle East Matters, not just this week, but this is actually our last programme. So from me and the team, thanks for watching. And of course, you can still catch plenty of our Middle East coverage in our news programmes. From me, though, goodbye.